for me.
Hi, I'm Raywin. Wait, oh gosh.
Oh my God. Hi, I'm Raywin Pickering, a farmer who does comedy.
And I'm Adrienne Pickering, an Australian actor. And yes,
we're sisters. Oh, God. Okay.
And this is our podcast, Is This a Job? Where we dissect.
I'm still trying to work it out.
And interrogate creative artists working and carving out an existence in Australia.
Yeah. Let's try to be funny about it, though.
Well, you know, a little bit.
It can be a bit grim.
And it can be funny too.
All right. I think it should be more funny.
Okay. Look, we want to know how, we want to know why they do it. Writers, actors, comedians, musicians, who else? Artists, directors, filmmakers. Why do we do it?
I don't know.
Why do we do it?
Like, is this a job?
Wait, is this a job?
Doesn't pay my rent, so I don't know. Don't know yet. We're trying to work it out. But today we have a wonderful guest. She is a very good friend of mine. She's a comedian, podcaster, radio host. And also
you've done your research.
Yeah, I know. Like, what else? But you've also had like a myriad of other jobs, which is so exciting. Yeah. Which actually I should have asked. We can cut this, but can we talk about the zoo?
We can talk about the zoo. I'm not there anymore.
Woo!
So long as I don't
mention,
defame it or say anything bad, then that's fine.
Because Jordan's had some awesome jobs.
Yeah. It was sick. I loved the zoo. I was thinking about it the other day. I was like, I miss it. I miss the zoo. I haven't been back.
What do you miss about it?
The animals.
Yeah.
Like
the orangutans. Did I tell you about the orangutans?
Yes.
Yeah.
With the crickets?
I remember this fact file about them.
Yeah. I feel like I'm going to say this because I feel like
Should we tell this story?
Apparently, and look, this is all alleged.
So not being witnessed firsthand by you then.
No. But apparently Kiani, who is a gorgeous orangutan who passed away last year, she fashioned a vibrator out of crickets.
So smart.
She just found them and she was like, I'm going to put them inside. Yeah, she was so smart.
And, she died doing what she loved.
Let's hope that she did. What a way to go.
Orangutans, it sets them apart from the other great apes is their use of tools.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And not worrying about
digits.
people watching.
Yeah.
I guess.
Beautiful.
Privacy different.
I think she liked the audience.
Yeah, did she go up against the glass?
Mind you, they spend a lot of time under those blankets.
Oh, they love it under there.
I always wonder about that when we see
them.
And
they also had to, well, it's just kind of like shelter from the sun. They're also like an animal that like uses a lot of energy sporadically. Yeah. So they like spend most of their time lounging and eating, and then they'll like get up and move somewhere.
Like fling from a tree to another tree with
well, because they're so big. Like it would take a lot of energy to move around. Like,
absolutely.
I can understand
and they just love it. And they look so funny. They look like little like Russian dolls.
Like, am I pretty? In front of
it's so funny.
In front of the glass.
And they would like be obsessed with people like grooming themselves. So like when people are at the windows and they like brush their hair or they put lip balm on, they're like right up against it.
Just fascinated.
Wow. I would show Kiani my jewelry if I was wearing any, and then like
she would just be watching.
And she would be obsessed with redheaded men.
Yeah, I remember you saying that.
Yeah. Loved it. That's when the crickets
we all
come
have
out.
our tastes. I mean, you know.
But
so
it was a great job.
Yeah.
It was so good.
Yeah.
And it was funny because I did like talks and tours and stuff like that, which is how I could get a job because I don't have any animal experience or knowledge. I do now, but only because of that.
you have heaps of knowledge.
But it's just from osmosis, like just being there. But the whole team of like the presenters, the talks and tours and stuff like that, they're all actors. Some of them have like backgrounds. Like there was a girl I worked with who studied zoology and then decided to become an actor. And then there's some other people
straight away.
Yeah,
like how could you be more perfect for a job?
Exactly.
Right? And she's great at her job. Everything. So all of them, but then we had like sculptors and puppeteers and
so
like
just lots of like artists that needed to actually like
So
like needed a real job. Like,
It's kind of the perfect fusion, isn't it, of both worlds?
Yeah, definitely.
And it was like nice because it's a job that you can be interested in. Like it's not like mindless work, which sometimes some casual jobs can be, where you're just like there for the paycheck and then you leave.
Definitely. The day job.
Yeah.
Artists call it.
But then it was like stimulating at the same time.
Yeah.
But you could still walk out and not think about it again. Like as soon as I walked out of the zoo, I was like, I have no responsibility.
Yeah.
Here. But then when I got there, I was like, I'm interested, I care, and I want to do a good job.
Yeah.
Which is so hard to find. Fuck, I shouldn't have quit.
There's a bit of regret here. But it's also like at certain times in our lives, those kinds of jobs just like fit the bill, right?
Yeah.
And then you move on to something else, and you know, I always say like never say never.
Exactly.
In this world, because
and I feel like when Kiani died, I was like, my girl, I gotta go. The queen is gone.
Yeah.
But it is so true. Yeah.
A couple crickets home.
Yeah, exactly. It's hard with those. And that's a job that has like very low turnover. And there are people who are very hesitant to let it go.
They've just been there for years.
Yeah.
In case you change your mind and you want to go back. Like
exactly.
now.
Or if like people will book. I know people who are in contracts now and like touring musicals and stuff, but they will still find a way to put in one shift every 3 months to keep that job, because they also know that they're like, this contract's going to end.
Yeah.
And what am I going to do?
Yeah. So you got to like line it up for the end.
Yeah.
So always be thinking.
Always be thinking about the next.
So like one of our first questions, I guess, is like, what do you put on your, like on those government forms, on the drop down of like, what is your
census? What's your job?
Where it's like you're trying to rack your brains and you're like, what do I put?
What do I put? I put, usually it's entertainment or performer. I'll say performer because that feels like nice umbrella.
Yeah. And often like comedian isn't there either.
No.
So you can't put that. But and so then you're like, well, I guess I'm a performer, but it's like, but you know, I'm not weird about it.
No. Yeah, I'm not gonna. I'll tell you that I'm a performer on a government form. But in an Uber, I'm a nanny.
Yeah,
you know, that's my job.
Exactly. Yeah, do not ask me to tell a joke.
I can't. No.
There's very strict criteria for how I tell my jokes.
But I feel like performer is good. It kind of covers all bases, and it's like, because I feel like stand up is still just performing.
Yeah. As much as like I think most people hate to admit it, because you're like, I don't know, there's such a like a weird connotation. Like, whoa, I've got a performance. You know, I've got to get out there and strut along the stage. Yeah, tread the boards. Whereas most of us are like in hoodies and like dark dark rooms to like two people. And you're like, okay, I sort of thought of some stuff today.
Every second person in their 30s is a content creator these days. Anyway, aren't they? And so true. I guess that's a whole different thing of like
content creator.
Is that what it?
No, that's 100% it.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah.
But I mean, you wear a lot of different occupational hats, and so you do have to juggle a lot of different roles. Has that? You know, we're talking about the radio hosting, the stand-up. You do writing as well for TV and sketch.
It's so funny.
Does it happen naturally or?
Just sort of, over the years, just sort of snowballed into more jobs, which has been good. It's so funny because I when I was younger, I really wanted to be an actor, and I think in hindsight, I think I've always been I was always a comedy fan and like SNL fan, stand-up fan, and I was like, I always wanted to do comedy, but I couldn't. I think it was probably because I was a girl. I don't know. I just like never thought about doing stand-up until like I finished acting school and stuff like that, and then decided
did you just meet some people in stand-up? Like, or how did it kind of like turn into you doing your first like 5-minute set, or like try to work it out and be like, I want to give it a go.
Yeah. Like, how did you know you were good at it?
I think I did a few shows at the comedy festival, but I like wrote a musical with some friends, and then I did like a one-woman cabaret, which we don't talk about.
Oh my gosh.
We don't talk about
So ambitious.
So ambitious.
I know.
A comedy cabaret
amazing to
rape culture.
Wow.
Come on.
Yeah.
Ahead of the times,
you've
probably.
got to talk about it on your first show.
Wow.
Really come in swinging.
It's better that you talk about it than like we talk about it.
Yeah.
No.
But it was, and then like, so I'd done that, and then I think it was all me dancing around. For at least, I'm sure you were similar, Ray, when I wanted to start doing stand up for about 4 years before I actually started doing it.
Yeah.
And then I went to the States just on a holiday with a friend, and we stayed in New York for like a month, and then we did Second City in Chicago for like, it was only like a 3-day workshop. Like it was just a fun, random thing to do.
Yeah.
And it was so fun. And it was also like, I think also like being in America and seeing how big it was and how many like job opportunities there were for comics and stuff there.
Yeah. It's a legitimate like pathway kind of. Yeah.
People think of it as an actual career.
Yeah.
Not, is it a job? Question mark.
Exactly.
Is it a job? I'm ready. Here's my resume and my headshot.
Yeah.
You know, like it's
and
very
it
different.
Feels like it's a full industry there. Like if you wanted to be, I think that's what it was like in seeing shows and stuff in New York and a lot of comedy. I was like, and a lot of UCB and stuff like that. I was like, oh, if you don't want to do, like, you don't have to be a live performer to have a full on and great career in comedy. Like you could be a writer, you could be like work as a showrunner. There's so many different avenues.
Yeah.
Whereas like, I think I felt, and I kind of still do feel this way in Australia. It's very hard to like pave your way and not
definitely
like have to be the face of it all, which is kind of
it's quite intimidating sometimes to feel like, well, I have to be like Kitty Flanagan in Fisk or something. Like I have to have my own show and be, you know, just as an example of someone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and how do you just go from
and all those successes are like, women that have been working for years and years and years, like Kitty Flanagan, like, you know, a stand-up for like decades. And like
overnight success.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly.
Literally.
Like, watching like comedians on like those panel shows and stuff as a teenager, you'd never see like, well, maybe my memory is not so good, but like women in their 30s or something. It seems like something that's like, true. Oh, you have to be like your 40s, like Denise Scott, like, you know, and that it's like, oh, you have to just keep working and plugging away for like a decade until you finally get some kind of opportunity. So then like that's a massive like I think you called it like the investment phase where it's like you actually don't get paid like anything for it but this is supposedly your like career choice, but it's like, well, how do you actually like without being financially very privileged from a very privileged family, like how do you actually make it all work? Like it's so hard to just keep putting in the mental investment as well as the time investment.
The time investment, because even to have another job and to be putting in all those hours and doing 3-day workshops and doing, I mean, that's a real challenge for someone in the investment phase.
Totally.
Keep investing for 10 years, right?
So daunting. Like kind of like talking you out of this. Like,
guys,
we're all having a heart attack here.
Going like, oh my God, what have I done?
Well, I think it's sort of like, it kind of like what you were saying, Rowan, just before about like, because like, what do they say it takes like 10 years to be good.
Yeah.
At stand up.
Yes.
And so, and I'm sure that, you know, there's wiggle room around that, but I think it's like 10 years, but it's more about comfortability and stuff like that and finding your voice. So I'm like, it takes 10 years to be good. And then if you're a woman or a queer person or whatever, and you're put off from stand up because of the idea of what a stand up is. Yeah. So you don't start for another 5 years later than the average man does.
Yeah. Or you start, but it's just so like start. Like even when I started, it was still like, oh, I don't really like want to do that open mic because it's like it's really late and you know you have to like juggle all these things of walking back to the back from the train station like at home, like alone at like 11:30 at night after this gig. So you're like, okay, maybe I don't want to do that one. So you like pick and choose. So I think there's like maybe less stage time for you to get up just simply because you're a bit more picky with what mics you want to do.
100%.
Yeah.
Because I came back from, this is in like 2017. I came back from the States and was like, who cares what I do here? Nothing matters. Yeah. I was like, who cares? I was like,
you mean on this earth?
Yeah.
Or do you mean in Australia?
I think
That's a beautiful outlook.
Well, in some ways, though, it's perfect for a creative. Because you're
definitely.
unencumbered by the pressures to do
I think
something
that's what we
right,
work
you
for
know?
like 10 years to try to get. It's
Yeah.
like to get to the who cares
To the-
like
to the-
phase
Literally.
of like, okay.
And I think, like, obviously I've been privileged enough to travel in my life. I think there was another situation where I was in Vietnam with my family, and I was so stressed out about this like music theater audition thing that I had.
Yeah.
And I had to, and I regret it so much. I left the holiday like a week early to make it for this. And to make it back for this audition, because it was an endowment, so they would give like $50,000 to like some random person. So
a big deal.
Yeah.
It doesn't exist anymore because it turns out they were super racist.
Oh my God.
Which is a damn shame. Yeah. Guys, you just got to be not racist.
Yeah.
But they, it was like everyone auditions, and then they have like a top 30. It's like Australian Idol. And then from the top 30, they pick a top 6, and then they pick the one. And the top 6 have a big like concert and to do and stuff like that. And I'd made it to the top 30. And that's why I like came back early from this holiday.
Yeah,
And
which could be a great opportunity.
Yeah.
Like
it seemed like the biggest deal at the time. And like in hindsight, I'm like, yeah, sure, it was maybe. But like, I think that was like the last big musical theater thing I did before I was like, I'm done. But yeah, being in Vietnam, I was like, who gives a fuck? Yeah. I was like, what's going on? Nothing matters, but in a nice way. Like, you know, I always think when I think about how big and expansive the universe is, it's like a real tell on how I'm going mentally, if that is daunting or exciting.
Yes. I think that's so true, isn't it? Like in other jobs, they call it work-life balance. and all that kind of stuff. But I think it's very hard for that to exist for creatives, because you sort of got to take the jobs when they come, and momentum builds, and then something and then something. But
exactly.
like, you also need to stay, Raymond hates this word, but grounded.
You do?
In America, they say rooted.
Rooted.
We don't say that.
I'm trying to stay rooted.
Come on.
But like, I think the same thing. That sometimes it can just feel like overwhelming. And like, I can't do this another day. And then the next week you're like, you know what? I don't need to be the best actor in the world. Right?
Yeah.
Like, look at that star. That's amazing. And it's all right just to do this job right now and like feel the expanse of the world.
I think the hardest thing is just taking things bit by bit, which I'm not very good at, and and then I'm also easily overwhelmed.
Because it feels like even like that audition, it feels like you can't afford to say no to things. Like you have to say yes, or because it could lead to something. You have to keep putting yourself out there and like just hoping it would work out.
But I feel like because part of me is like, damn, I wish I'd started doing stand-up earlier, because it suits me so much better than the other stuff. I was like, this is it took me a while to be like, no, this is where you want to be.
What is it about it that feels like that?
I don't know. I think I like the way it works, in the sense that you have to show up and just do gigs, and that's how you kind of continue writing and prepping and stuff like that. Like, I work well with deadlines, and there's consistency in the gigs, where if you want to do a gig, you can do one. There's something around. It'll be shit most of the time,
but you can do it.
You can do it. Yeah,
exactly.
Whereas I felt like with musical theater, there would be like a rush of like 3 auditions in a week, and then you wouldn't have anything for a year, and then it was like always, and it was always the same. And I had a lot of friends working professionally, and it just sort of, the veneer kind of wore off a bit. I think seeing what was required of them or something. It's very cookie cutter, especially for shows that are brought over from the States or from London. Sometimes people are literally told to emphasize a word the same way that an American did 20 years ago on Broadway, and gesture on that line. And it's
Really?
like some of them are loose, and then some of them are so hardcore.
So you're actually not able to make many choices. No. It's just like, you have to be a replica.
Yeah, absolutely. Even like with singing, sometimes it'll be like, okay, you have to hit vibrato on this beat. Even the tone of your voice has to be shifted. So I was like,
oh my gosh.
Hearing that. I also didn't like musicals when I was auditioning for them. I was like, I never listened to them.
Becoming a musical theatre artist.
I was like, I don't like this. And then when I decided to stop, I was like, I love it again. And I was like, oh, it was just something that I enjoyed.
Exactly.
It was literally monetizing your hobby in a way. I think like going to uni for it kind of wasn't. I had a great time at uni, but I don't think it was like, it didn't help my love of musicals.
Yeah, right.
And then,
Very difficult path to go down to monetize your hobby though. Like out of a lot of hobbies to choose, like play chess or I don't know.
Something like that.
I don't know.
Get into bowls.
Really? Take up golf. I mean, that pays really well.
Yeah. But yeah, anyway. But I also think sometimes I'm like, I don't know whether I would have started doing stand-up if I had ever got into a show.
Yeah.
Like, part of the reason I started is because I didn't get anything. And I was like, no, but I still feel like I want to be a performer in that way. I still want to do something creative. Yeah. And then that's why I started doing stand-up. Yeah.
That's such a similar story for a lot of creatives, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like how you get rejected actually forms the jobs that you do take and the sort of the line that you end up going down.
100%.
Sort of decided for you in a way. Because you don't get that big endowment. Or you didn't get that. So you don't sort of like fall into the easy path sometimes.
No.
You carve it out yourself. And then it sounds like from what you're saying is like, it ends up kind of being more empowering because it's actually more suited to you.
Yeah, and you kind of you're forced to figure out what works.
What you want as well. Yeah.
And I think it was that thing of being, but I still want something like this. I still want to be in this world. Yeah. But I don't want, and then like how easy it was for me to just stop. Yeah. That was crazy. Yeah. It's like, whoa, my whole life has been leading up to this. And now I'm like, I actually don't care. Yeah.
How are you like mum and dad with that moment of like changing everything?
I think they were kind of fine with it, but I think they were hoping that it would mean that I just went and got a proper job.
Yeah, right.
They were like, oh, thank gosh.
Oh my God. I'm going to go do something.
Yeah. Yeah. And then next Christmas, I'm a stand-up. No.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
But I remember I used to think that my parents were so like blindly supportive, and they are like, they're very supportive. I'm very lucky. But also I remember in the car with my dad one day, him being like, yeah, it's because I went back to uni for a bit to do a master's, which I didn't finish. But I was telling Dad about it, and he was like, yeah, I always thought like you'd go for this, but then by 25 you would be like, okay, what am I gonna do with my life? Like, you would get like a real job and
so he was supportive to an extent.
Heart.
Yeah.
And me in the car like, but it was also fair, they're anxious, they're worried.
Yeah.
They don't want us to be destitute.
No.
Right? Like, I mean, really, they truly just want the best.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And they're like trying, and I would be the same. If I had a kid that wanted to get into anything creative, I'd be so nervous.
Oh yeah.
So I'd just be like,
because it's fun. Like, obviously we all like it, but at the same time, it's like, I would not wish this on anyone.
Yeah.
This constant reevaluation of yourself, especially with stand-up, you have one bomb and you're like trying to constantly think about like, okay, wow, I guess I'm really not funny. I guess I shouldn't be doing this. Like, wow, I can't come up with any new jokes. And it's just like, I would not want people to really get stuck in that loophole. But
totally,
it does make you stronger, I guess. So maybe it's good to get to find that. I'm sure there's other ways you could find that like inner strength.
Do you feel like you have to analyze your performance, like listen back and really kind of scrutinize performances in that way? I've heard Razy talk about this in comedy, and I'm like, don't do it, because I never watch. It's not that I never watch, but there are a lot of shows that I've done where I don't see the end result.
Well, I guess it's like,
and
would you have to?
Part of my performance is just like being in the room with the director and the actors on that day, and I'm happy to leave it at that.
Yeah,
so like.
Well, I guess
it's
like,
quite different.
Sorry, for an actor, I guess it's quite different because you would be like, well, what do you need to learn anything from that role? Like, it's not like you play someone like you would have to watch The Reef to like learn how to get eaten by a shark again.
At this point,
I have to learn how to get eaten again.
I'm quite okay with taking the feedback from the director at the time, I think, and like talking talking to them about it rather than actually watching it and going into this.
Yeah.
So I guess it's quite different because we have to, for that scenario, we have to constantly get eaten by the shark again. We have to like every night, we're like, okay, we have to work out like why didn't people laugh at that? Is it because I was like, I mumbled it or something? And you can like learn that from listening. You're like, wow, I really didn't actually explain that like properly. Yeah. So it's so beneficial, but
it sucks. I'm actually the worst. I'm bad at it.
I hate it.
I know people who will go for walks. There are people who will walk and listen to the show, like especially during festival season. Yeah. They will listen to the show from the night before, whether it was a bomb or a crush, and they will. I heard about somebody who writes down verbatim as they're listening to the show, and I've.
Like what they said, like the timing
I used to
what they said.
I used to do that for like for my first couple of years. Yeah, I was like really like every little set. Yeah, I would listen and write it down, and then in little brackets I'd put laugh. If I heard like the audience laugh, I was like, okay. And so then I could look at it as like a kind of script and be like, well, there's that one like there. Data. And then you're like, yeah, kind of. And then it's like, well, this is a full paragraph where there was no laughs. Like you're just looking at this space and you're like, well, I need to put something in there. Or like, so it was, maybe I did grow a lot more in that first couple of years than the last few years where I've just like, absolutely, I don't want to do that anymore.
I can't. I really... If I am riffing on stage, if I know that I had like a riff or something like that, then I'll listen back to it. That's very true,
where it's something brand new. Yeah. And you're like, what did I even say then? I was kind of like caught up in it. Yeah, totally.
But then I'm like, I'm really bad at listening back, watching back. And like also the random acting jobs that I've done recently, I'm not going to watch them. Yeah. I'll watch, sometimes I'll watch up to the point that I'm in it because I'm like,
curious about the show.
Yeah. And I'm also like, I'm trying to be more like, it's not just about you as well. Like I'm like, there was a whole crew behind this, is everything.
Absolutely.
But then at the same time, I'm like, but I'm still there. Yeah. Unfortunately.
But often like, I think it's much harder with visuals too.
Yeah.
It's like different. Maybe
That's
if actually I just listened to a recording of it.
Yeah.
That would be great.
Think it's often like, you can just be so self-critical if you're like, why is my hand doing that? Yeah. Why am I doing that? Why do I keep touching my face?
Yeah.
Or like, why didn't someone tell me? Like, I looked a bit cross-eyed or something. Like, why did they put that? And it just distracts you from it. And it's so silly, but it's because it's us and it's our body and our face. And so
you would have to look at the self-tapes you do. I guess
don't.
That's such a big thing.
Like don't I don't. Oh. No, I just take the last one.
Oh,
that's why
really?
I always say to you, Raisy's my like reader for all my self-tapes.
A lot of the self-tapes.
So we do them all together. Yeah. And so like, that's why I'm always saying to you, Ray, when you should take your job a little more seriously. I've said which one was the best, right? Probably that last one or the one before. And then I wait to see what you say.
And I was like, maybe a couple ones back. Like, I can't remember. It was like, because I assume you're going to watch them.
No, really? I always choose the one that you say.
It's so funny.
I don't have time for that shit.
I'm
just sitting there watching them.
When I'm looking back at them on my like phone.
Yeah.
I'll look back and I'll be like, wait for the moment that I realize it's the one that I need for the audition. I'm like, okay, that one. Yeah. I'll favorite it. But then the one that I fixated on way too much, there was an ad audition that was $150,000. It was going to be $75,000 for the first 18 months and then another 75 for the second 18 months. It was like a 3-year campaign. And
for
I was
like a couple days work or something.
Yeah. It might have been like, I think they would like it might have been like more regular work throughout the 3 years. Like they would call you on set and stuff like that.
Rare,
that's life changing. Like, my God.
You feel pressure for a 20-second video you're about to send.
Like hands are shaking in the self-tape.
Like, like analyzing every second of the audition and then being like, they're going to decide if they want me or not in the first moment they see me, especially for an ad. It's
they're like, oh, she's got blonde hair. We can't change that.
we can't change. They simply can't.
Oh my God.
I mean, it's basically the lottery. And at that point,
lottery.
I mean, not that you're not talented or all the people going for the ad are talented. But do you know what I mean? Like ultimately, within a few seconds, it's like, that's our girl.
Yeah.
That's it. That's what we want for this. And
haven't you even been told?
Have in their heads.
Yeah. Haven't you even been told sometimes it's just like, oh, your eye color's like wrong or something like that?
Maybe
or it's
not
just like
that small, like eye color, like you had an eyebrow hair.
Yeah.
No.
But it's something like so
yeah,
stupid like that, where it's just like, oh.
It is often
Yeah.
like
I remember we had we would have these like
arbitrary.
Out of your control.
totally out of your control.
totally random. And also like it's so funny, like you were saying about hair color and stuff like that.
Yeah.
There was this audition that we had this like casting agent come in at uni. God, I think it's been 10 years since I graduated, so I've been fully nostalgic these last couple of months. I don't know what it is.
Wow.
This is like the fourth time I've talked in depth about my uni experience in like the last couple of days. But we had this casting agent come in and she was talking about auditions and stuff like that. And somebody asked like, if there's a character that is known for having brown hair and I really want it, do I need to dye my hair brown or like wear a wig or whatever? And she was like, no, most of the time, no. But she was like, but sometimes I work with directors and teams where they just can't see past that. And she had this girl auditioning for it was a massive show a few years ago. I can't remember what it was. And she had like brown hair and they kept being like, she's perfect. She's everything, but she has brown hair. And she kept saying you're going to put her in a wig on stage anyway.
Yeah.
Like she'll be wearing a wig. And they just kept being like, there's something off. And then, they were like, we'll see her one more time. And so this casting agent called the girl and was like, can you get into a hairdresser? Can you just like get some foils, get some highlights, trick them into it? And then she did, and then she
like
got the part.
$400 later.
Yeah,
you're like,
exactly.
Are you going to reimburse me for this? Or like
100%.
Oh my god!
But then like she walked in with the blonde hair and they were like, she's perfect.
I guess to be fair, there's a lot at stake for those people making the decision.
Yeah.
And then if there's like, for every producer, then there's like 10 executive producers and then all of these people who are sort of behind them going, this is our idea for who wants this role. And then they cast someone without it. But everyone wears wigs these days anyway.
Everybody does.
Everyone wears
Nicole
wigs.
Kidman? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
She's living in them.
Incredible hair.
Great real hair.
Yeah.
Keeping that under wraps.
But it is, it's very funny. Anyway, juggling is great.
Yeah, juggling's really fun.
Well, it's fun when you're nailing it. And you're nailing it. So
Yeah,
so
you are. It's
nice
not even really
it's so
like-
nice to hear about.
That is very funny. From your perspective, because in my mind, it's a jungle. I was like, on the way here, I was like, I do have to pick one thing. Just do one thing. Anyway. It is what it is.
Yeah, but it's surely like, but all these things are like in the same realm of like, you're still being a comedian, even though you're a Triple J broadcaster. Like that's still being a comedian. So it's still kind of like, it's still in the realm. It's not like you're pivoting to something like totally different, but still kind of creative. But you're still actually doing it.
And it's nice to like be in the music world as well.
Oh, yeah.
It feels like a good blend. I'm like, oh, this is like where it sits nicely.
Yeah, your musical theater background. You're like, you can really
I'm like,
relate to this.
Come on, kids.
Yes.
Is that
Talking to like Kid Laroi about Grease. You're like, yes. So when I played Sandy,
the Kid Laroi.
Oh, well.
He'd be a great Danny.
Yeah,
it really would.
Yes, that's the mashup we all want to listen to, honestly. Jordan Barr and Kid Laroi.
I think it'd be perfect.
Yeah. Why don't you pivot into musical theatre, Ada?
Because I'd have to pivot
be
into
easy.
musical
Yeah.
theatre. I guess you'd have to learn to pivot to begin with.
Yeah.
Physically pivoting.
Yeah.
Oh my God, the dancing is hard.
Oh, well,
I used to be able to dance,
that's
but
true.
I think I'd
It's
pull
so
a
there's
lot of
so many
muscles when I did it.
And there's so many injuries because
That's
they're doing
so
the
true.
same thing every night.
Yeah.
It's like the DCC Cowboys.
It's just such
Oh
discipline.
yeah,
I
they
think,
have to
musical
all get
theatre.
like knee reconstructions and stuff.
Yeah.
at like 25.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean, you're dancers and singers
and actors.
triple threat.
Yeah,
It's the triple
the
threat.
thing that kills me in the music theatre world where I'm like, I could never, ever, ever do that. Also because I can't dance. I'm not a dancer. Never.
Really?
Never. No, I can't.
You must have had some training.
I had so much training. I had like, it's like out of control how
No
much
one's
training.
had as much
I've
training.
literally been dancing since I was 3 and you would never be able to tell. I remember like in my 3rd year, my dance teacher at uni being like, like you've been dancing for like 3 years now. And I was like, I've been dancing since I was 3. And she was like, and she goes, don't tell anyone that. She was like, do not tell anyone. So I just, it's not in me. It's just not. And you could have had some of the best training in the world.
Either. I know. I mean, we all kind of did dancing when we were young. Like even our brothers, like, we kind of
that's
like
great.
tap and stuff. We were kind of like, let's do something. But it never like was really natural to me. I don't know what it was, but like I remember Mum would even like rewatch like old VHS tapes of Ada and like Swan Lake. She'd just like watch it and like, so beautiful. That's those were the days.
Those were the days. I am not a Swan Lake anymore.
Maybe she was like looking at that when you were like, trying to dabble in like soaps and stuff. She's like, I could have gone this other way. So majestic instead of you like a meth addict on Neighbours.
Always
I keep bringing
that
it up.
And I wasn't a meth addict. Not that there's anything wrong with depicting that. I was someone on the methadone program.
On the program.
Yes.
Who are you dealing with, Dr. Carl?
I can't talk about this again.
Sorry, I brought it up. It was in.
I've actually played quite a few people with substance abuse.
Yeah, I think maybe that's why it's in my mind that it's just like,
certainly
that's
Missy. And season 4 went down a really terrible.
Yeah.
No, that's it. It's kind of a compliment, I think, playing. I mean, like,
I mean, you went
Candy's
really
a great
method.
movie.
I love Exactly. Did you know she was on that? She's a bank.
Candy.
Candy was my very first film.
I had no idea.
I thought that's why you were like,
I did one scene and I was like 21.
Okay, I'm going to go back and watch.
My very first, I played a bank teller and I got to work with Heath.
Oh my God, I know the scene.
Yeah, I know the scene. I've watched it so many times.
The really gullible bank teller who ended up like giving him the money.
Yes, I know that.
Oh my God, that's it was my very first film. So I was just like 3 months out of drama school. Like, it's just like.
No, you have a line. I have a line.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
He's amazing.
The dream.
That's so fun. I had no idea. I was just thinking addicts and Australian films.
So,
I mean, a beautiful film.
Oh, yeah.
That's so good.
such
Most
an
people
incredible
I think
film,
3 months out of acting school, I did a web series pilot, which no one's gonna.
I probably did that too. That's all right.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are some commercials in there too. It wasn't all just like, scenes with Heath Ledger.
Yeah.
I just finished drama school.
It's that mixed in with like a Wiggles
that was
audition.
Not that has not been how my career has gone. Yeah, and certainly the juggle. Certainly the juggle.
Well, that's it. I think it's like juggling prestige with shitty stuff as well.
Yeah.
Like I remember doing, and this is not, it was just more of an example of being like, this is the world that we live in. I'm not trying to brag. But I just done, this was a couple of years ago. I was so nervous. I just opened for Hannah Gadsby at Hamer Hall, was in this like gorgeous change room. I was like, there was a piano in the change room.
Wow.
I was like, what the hell?
Just in case.
Yeah. Low lighting everywhere.
It's like one of those life moments you just got to like go.
Yeah.
It was so nice. And then the next night, I think I was on it like Dirty Secrets.
Yeah.
and it was kind of, but I kind of reveled in it in a way, in a really sick
What's
way.
Dirty Secrets, just for our viewers out there, our listeners?
It's a very like long running open mic in Fitzroy where it's like you have to go down the steps.
Kind of grimy.
Yeah. It's like in a kind of cellar. So it's kind of like, it's got those like grungy vibes. And it's been going for like 10, 15 years or something. It's like so long. It's changed hands. But like, it's just, it notoriously never has very, like the most people you can fit in there is like 20 people. So it's never to like big crowds. It's always like, you're trying something new.
Yeah.
Like, let's go to Dirty.
And it's a lot of comics as well.
Exactly.
But it's a great room. It's a great room to try stuff.
Yeah.
It was like
not knocking it at all. But it's so funny. It's like the juggle of like, It's like, wow, how was Hamer Hall last night when you're like up the back trying to read your new notes? Like, you're like, you've made it.
I'm on last. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's what success looks like, right?
Yeah.
Is that what, is it?
I don't know.
I guess it is.
There's a part of me that like, there's like always going to be a sick part of me that enjoys the like,
definitely.
the like fight.
I think that's how you would break through with stand up or like that you like that kind of weird grungy aspect of it that it's like, in your words, very grounding.
Well, you spent 10 years doing it,
but you're
well,
still
right in your investment phase.
Exactly.
So it kind of is part of your journey and like who you are as a stand-up.
Yeah.
Because you've been doing it
because you
for so
love
long.
those kind of rooms where like, I think like we talked about it with Matt, but there's nothing like better than trying a brand new bit that works. That's like the best possible feeling for any stand-up comedian. It's like so
fun.
It's so fun because it just like affirms all those things. And so I guess you've got a good association with those kind of weird grungy rooms or beer gardens where it's light out and you're like talking to three people like just smoking in a corner and you're like exactly. But you're like, wow, that bit worked. And then you're like, you've got this weird fondness for that room and you're like, no, I can still, you can still get them where it's like the hardest, possible environment kind of thing.
Because I'm assuming you're not going to try out a new bit at Hamer Hall.
No,
it's not really how
so
it's not how
funny.
It works, eh?
No, I think I did one.
I was going to say, I'm sure people do that. It's like,
because it was a warm crowd. Like I was like, they're good. It's a good crowd. I didn't try new. I think I'd done it once at another room, but I was like, it was a quick little one-liner that I was like, I think this will work, and then threw it in there, and it was fine. But it was like also because the crowd was like really.
You got to
warm.
trust your instinct.
Yeah.
You're a performer. I mean,
because that's when you might feel like the most confident as well. You're like, wow, I'm up here like Hamer Hall. So you're like confident enough to try this bit, and then like because you're confident, it just works, and you're like,
totally.
Oh, great. Yeah.
It is like, and I think there's something about like also like going to like the open mics and stuff like that, and like even saying this now, I'm like I need to go. Like I'm like fuck, I need to go back.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I had one booked for Wednesday. It got cancelled because there was no audience.
That's
that's humbling as well.
But there's something about like every so often I'm like, treat yourself to a man who's going through a divorce talking about how his wife's a bitch.
Yeah.
Treat yourself to that. So there's something that breaks in you at a certain point where that's the funniest thing you'll ever see in your life.
Yeah.
It's just a man hanging on by a thread being like, my wife's a bitch.
That's the open mic night at some places.
No, that's Hamer Hall.
Right. I was going to say, like, whose show is that?
It's Hannah's new stuff.
Yeah. It's very raw.
Very all right.
Oh my God, yeah.
But it is like even doing like raw heats and stuff like that. I think I co-hosted one or a couple and it's great and it's so exciting. You're seeing people try stand up for the first time. I think I did one open mic before I did Raw.
Is this
really?
Comedy festival?
Yeah.
This is like Raw is like the national competition for finding like the exactly the newest amateur comedian or whatever. But some people like
actually for
save
real
up.
new.
Well,
like
kind
not
of.
like,
there are some people that like have been doing it. Because you can do it 3 times. So some people like, okay, want to save up. So they have been doing like stand up for like a couple years and then will do their first
that makes sense.
entry into it so that they kind of get somewhere. And then,
I didn't know that.
I did.
I thought everybody just did it. I didn't know there was a 3-time limit. I didn't know it was like, I thought it was like everybody trying it for the first time. And it was just like, wow, look at all these incredible people that just are really good at stand up.
Yeah.
But I kind of, and I did like my first solo show before I even started stand up. The
incredible
cabaret about rape culture. I did a lot of stuff that like, I think I was just like, yeah, you just do it.
Yeah.
Because I had this like, again, like drama school mentality of like work begets work, work begets work. And so you just like do stuff. And I was like, I'm ready to do a solo.
Yeah.
I'm 23. And we just had the Me Too movement. Let's go.
Yeah. Do you admire that when you see new comedians, they're doing their first solo show or their first little like fringe show or whatever, and you're like, oh, you haven't actually done any like stage time. Do you like admire that? Because you like, that's my progression. Or do you like, no, babe, like go get up on stage for like a couple minutes first?
I wish I'd taken some time.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's just more like you just have more time. I think that when you're like, especially in your like early 20s, you have this idea of like when success or what's,
you feel like you're running out of time. You're like, I'm 26, I have to do something.
I gotta do something.
Like, you're like, absolutely, I do not have to do that. Like,
I could have taken so much time. Just like
lived my life. But
I wouldn't like, it's weird because I'm like, I wouldn't really change anything, but then there's like stuff where I'm like, oh, I think that was a bit cringy, like things that I did for when I first started doing stand-up.
Yeah.
So I saw other stand-ups doing it. So I was like, okay, cool. Now I'll make a Facebook page.
Yeah, I
Which
know.
is like, you've been doing it for 6 months.
yeah.
Right.
Like, you don't need to have any fans yet because you actually suck at this.
Yeah.
And like,
I kind of like the tenacity though.
That's
like,
true.
There's
does
something I
beget
admire
more
in
stuff
it because it's like that's so not me. I really admire to just go out and do it. It took me like I did several split shows and like I only did my first solo like 2 years ago. So I was like 7 years in or something because I was like, that's what you have to do. I was like in my head that I was like, oh no, you've got to do it this way. I could, it did not occur to me that no, you could just do it whenever. Like
I think the older you get though, I think that's just true of life for everyone is like, I don't know. I feel like the older that I get is sort of you realize the rules are there are no rules. Like it's actually whatever works for you.
Yeah.
So it's not like you have to do it this set way and this equals success. It's
Yeah.
like you got to look at the long term like life you're leading and just kind of go like, that doesn't fit my personality. Like I mean,
well, yeah, I don't think I would do a cabaret on rape culture. Like looking
I'd
back,
love to see you do it though.
I
would
think
love
it could be really funny.
It could be funny, but it's like more about alpacas.
yes. Yeah, I'm weaving way more farm rape culture. Oh God, absolutely not. The female alpacas are up for it, so it's fine.
Yeah, I think the funny thing is that the alpacas
Cannot get enough.
They're always saying yes. These girls, they love it.
Exactly.
Well, because they don't have careers.
No.
Sorry, not to be rude to the alpaca girls, but they're always ready to have a kid. It's always a good time.
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly. They're always ready.
They don't really get a say though, do they? Like it's interesting.
Well, I mean, I guess, you can, like, they can decide.
They can.
Yeah. I mean, if they don't, exactly. They spit
bite
it.
and
Yeah.
spit.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good on them. Good on them. They do.
It's a
compliment.
Yeah.
So funny though.
Okay.
Oh, exactly. I mean, I think I've mentioned this. The goats, they will like mate, well, sheep too, but they will mate through a fence. Like the females will back up to the fence. Like they're like cannot be stopped. They're like,
so funny.
it's not just the males.
They're so into
They're
it.
so into it.
God bless.
Like instinctually, just very into it. Anyway. That's why I love my job. Because it's all consensual.
And that's a job.
That's a job.
That is a job. Do you think you would recommend this job to other people?
I think I've recommended doing stand up to so many people.
Yeah.
I've just been like with no
I say that too. When people are like, should I just do it? Like, you know, I've been thinking about it for a while and you're like, just do it. Like, I wish I hadn't have waited or like been so like, nervous about it. Like my first psyching myself out from the second and the third one and the fourth one. You're like, like just do it.
And I think like people get which is probably what was holding me back as well. But it's like do it without any like expectations as well. Like it could be, especially when you first start for the first 2 years, like stand up is just a hobby.
Yeah.
Like that you're trying to get good at, but you're like, it is really just a hobby. So just enjoy that.
Yeah.
I think I wish I had enjoyed the hobby aspect of it more rather than looking for like any like level of whatever. And I think, and I don't know if like it's probably happened a lot with you as well, Raywin, where I will often get people, usually people who went to my uni and stuff like that. And I love this, so keep reaching out. I'm not shitting on you, but a lot of people will be like, I would love to have a chat about how to get into stand up. And I'm like, let's have and I'll sit down and we'll have a coffee and they'll be like, I'm working on this 5 minutes, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, you need 3. You need 3 minutes and it doesn't even have to be good, but just do it. And then I'll be like, here are the open mics. And they'll be like, oh, but how do you do this and this? And should I do this? And I'm like, and it's like all, I feel like people, and I was like this too, which is why I'm saying it, but like people are looking for the magic answer.
Definitely.
Of like, this is how you do it. Whereas it's like, it's just you just have to start.
Exactly.
And with stand up, it's really like,
it's so true. You just have
begin.
to do it.
Just like show up.
Yeah. And I think one of the best pieces of advice as well that I got is like literally like no one cares. Like
Nobody cares.
Often in the like your first few, it's literally just to other comedians and all they're thinking about is their own their own set. They're just playing it in their head. So like, yeah, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. Like no one's going to remember it. As someone that ran like an open mic room for quite a while, and like we had the third bracket, it's called. So that's all just new people. Some nights it would be like 40 comedians have signed up and you're like just dinging them. But honestly, like even though you'd see those comics like the next week, you literally like I could not recall anything that they did. Yeah, I can't. Yeah, even me that's supposed to be half listening.
Yeah, totally.
Like so that I can ding them off if it starts getting pretty weird and like racist and bizarre. But like ding, it's ding, just ding, like ding, yeah, exactly. You're like get off, and then like literally trying to play them off if they go too long. Yeah. But yeah, it's no one's thinking about it. No one cares. I think you just got to do it.
That's some words of wisdom for everyone, isn't it? I think we just care too much,
and it really is like no one is thinking about you.
No,
like.
Absolutely.
In a nice way.
Yeah.
Yes. I think like we can just really overanalyze it and think, oh, I shouldn't do that because I might get this wrong. And we just sort of like, that's this kind of way of like, you've got to wait till you're perfect to be public.
Yeah, exactly.
Rather than just being public and just sort of like failing and traipsing through it. And there's something beautiful about discovering yourself and your comedy and how you do it. And that's what people kind of love anyway. Is like,
and there doesn't have
the
to
humanity of it.
Exactly.
Not this sort of like perfect polished thing.
Yeah. People like it.
You can't get it right.
Yeah. 100%. And it's also like the good thing about stand up, unless you choose to record it, which if it's your first time, I wouldn't.
No,
but it's not. It doesn't live anywhere.
For yourself to listen back, or just for the world.
For the world,
like, don't record it and like publish it on Facebook. Yeah. It's like, this is me.
Because some people record it. They'll set up the tripod in the back, and you're like, this is like you're not even 10 gigs in. Like, do not show this to anyone. Like,
Just to be upfront, we're recording this, and it's only my second hosting a podcast. I'm one of those.
And she is very nervous.
I am one of those people who's recording the failure.
No, this is perfect. Don't worry. But I was
literally no one cares. No one's going to listen to this.
This I know more than anything. Who cares? Also, I don't care.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think about it with like musicians. I'm like, that would be so much because I guess that's different because I'm like, it's so vulnerable to be a musician, but then they think the same thing about stand up.
Yeah.
But it's
like
that
funny.
You have to put your music out there. It's on like it's recorded. It's there for anyone to see. And it's like that I find so much scarier. More daunting.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. When people say to us like, oh wow, that's so brave. I could never do that. It's like, oh God, I could like being a musician, like I just cannot. Or even being an actor, like, that's so much pressure. Exactly. Yeah, in front of everyone, in front of the cameras. Yeah, I can't imagine. So everyone's just got different.
Feel totally at ease in those circumstances. But I like playing the character. I guess maybe it's just I've done it so much. But even I'm trying to think. I think even when I started out, I had a real sense of like trusting the words and like what's going on beneath the lines, and so I actually just don't. I think I find more freedom in that.
Some really bad words. And you're like,
I've never done
script isn't.
Yeah. Of course.
I mean, without naming names.
Yeah, of course, but you're still a person in a moment, like in a cafe or in a, brothel, let's face it. I've played a few prostitutes, but, sorry, Grandpa.
They loved it.
Yeah, tune in.
That was a period of really like hiding that from my grandparents.
Like them desperately wanting to support.
Really
and like,
so funny.
I think the swearing
telling
was
everyone at the bowls
worst.
club to watch.
It was the swearing. Really.
People, especially like of an older generation, they really don't like swearing, and I forget.
Yeah,
because I'm like, I don't care. No. But it's really
especially because I think it's kind of changed. The C bomb does not mean like what it used to mean. It's just
not at all. It is so funny. My nan once asked my mum if I was still doing porn comedy.
Whoa. Do you think she really understood
what you do?
That means, or
no. I think she got it. And I was like, I wish no one's asking.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound like she was judging. She was just wanting to know if it was still your career. Hey, maybe it could be. Like, who knows what the next
what the next thing could be.
Yeah.
Porny comedy.
Yeah.
I'll just stitch porn on
erotic comedy. Is that
it'll be like videos of porn
yeah,
and
that's
then
a thing.
a video of me doing stand up next to it just for the clicks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get some likes. Get some eyes on it.
It's going to be really popular.
That'll be good.
But it might not give you the satisfaction you think it will. I don't know.
No, it's not. Someone's getting satisfied.
Yeah, someone might be again and again and again.
It might do it.
One thing I'm really interested in is like if you feel like you've had to sacrifice other things in your life to pursue this career, or if that's ever like a consideration, like, or if you know what I mean, because I feel like a lot of times
Because you have to put so much time into it.
you have to put so much time in, and you don't necessarily, the investment phase can be so long, and there can be so much kind of like dangling of the carrot that then gets taken away, uncertainty. I don't know. Like,
I think
do you feel like,
I think I sacrificed. I think I felt like I was really sacrificing my social life when I was younger, because I would often work in hospo and stuff like that, and like just couldn't, and was just like chronically broke, and you really start to realize when your friends and stuff are getting proper jobs, and you're like, oh, we're not like it started even, and now I'm like,
Absolutely.
oh, we're. You've got a house.
yeah.
Or like it's different now. And like I'm not the difference between me and a lot of other comedians is if I really needed to, I could ask my parents for some help if I wanted. And when I was younger, definitely. Yes. Now they'd probably be like, fuck off. Yeah. But I was
you're old enough, John.
you're old enough. I was way too stubborn though. I'm like so like, no, like this is my plight. Like, I'm an artist or fucking whatever.
Yeah,
I hate saying that. But I was like, yeah, and so I think for a while, I think like the biggest sacrifice for me was just like routine and social life, which doesn't sound like much, but I think like, when I look back at my 20s, I had so much fun, and I did go traveling and stuff like that. So what am I saying? I think.
But then once
did
you
have a lot of
stand-up,
other friends? Sorry, I was just going to say, has it changed that you used to have a lot of friends who did regular jobs, and now actually your friends are just the
Comedians?
comedians?
Yeah,
and
it
the
has.
people that you're working with.
Yeah.
Is that something that's changed?
I think it also shifted because my friendship group is comedians, whereas I have a lot of individual friends that I catch up with, who I have one-on-one friendships with that have proper jobs, and like stuff
just
like that.
to keep in touch with reality.
But also like one of the lucky things about comedy is that it is so social. Yeah. Like I was just in Edinburgh and I was like, am I here for the hang?
Yeah, totally.
Like what is going on?
Oh,
what am I doing?
Yeah.
But
it's a big part of it,
yeah.
isn't it?
Oh yeah.
So I think it's I try to hold on to my friendships as much as possible. So I've managed to hold on to a lot of friends who like work in, but then most of my friends all work in the same industry. I'm like, it's so funny. They all work in like social work.
Musical theatre.
Musical theatre, yeah. Well, it's not too far away. But I think that's when I get like stuck on like what am I doing or what sacrifices am I making or am I because I'm also just like bad with money where I'm like, should I be doing this? Maybe other people should. Maybe people who know what they're doing should. Yeah. But
maybe I should find my super fund. I don't know.
Consolidate the super. Consolidate.
I've been trying, but they've got the wrong birth date for me on one of my alts. I don't even. No. I can't. But yeah, I think when I think about that, I keep remembering all the like, there's too many positives with doing comedy and doing writing and radio and stuff like that outweigh any of the negatives. And I think if it got to a point like it did with like, I think it's easy with musical theatre. I was like, there's no positives.
Yeah. It was very clear
if
for
you're
you.
like, if you're dwelling on it.
If I'm thinking about it all the time. If you're
in the moment, you're like, I'm giving this up.
Yeah. I think it would be psycho not to think about giving up, to not think about like throwing the towel in, but then it's like more about why do you stay?
Think about next week.
Yeah.
Day at a time.
Just got to do this.
Yeah.
That invoice will be paid soon.
Yeah.
Trust and keep going.
Keep going.
Keep juggling, John.
Yeah.
Keep juggling.
But yeah, it is weird.
Yeah. It's weird, but so rewarding.
I think but one of
Not
the reasons
monetarily,
not
but-
monetarily.
Well, sometimes someone got that big ad you were
Somebody,
talking about,
yeah, I
right?
found out it was, and
And
good
they
for
bought
her.
an apartment, maybe.
Literally, probably.
Let's hope that they did, because it'll be worth a lot of money by now.
Yeah.
So much.
Yeah.
But I think also, like, as a woman, like, I'm not going to have kids. I don't want to. It's never been something for me, but a lot of my friends are deciding whether or not to. Also, one of my mates who had a very successful career, or still has it, sorry. I'm talking about, like, she has a very successful career in music theatre, and it has come to a pause, or it's had to shift because she's just had babies, and she had twins, which is a lot to handle, and to, like, and there's a lot of performers who can work having newborns and stuff into their contracts, and that, like, they'll literally be feeding off stage, which is amazing.
Yeah.
I've done it.
It's that's so sick.
Pumping the
It's so
milk,
cool.
running back to the truck. So it's hard.
Yeah.
It would
I
be-
will not lie.
It's
Like,
your
well,
body.
but and you
really
had to work
hard.
it into the contract of being like, you need
You
these
have
breaks
to.
like,
Because otherwise,
my God.
Otherwise, no one will let you go. Like, because often, like, to be fair, it's very annoying for the crew to stop while I go and pump milk, but they stop for a bunch of other people too, for different reasons.
100%.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you know, it's been actually a real
Yeah.
challenge in my career to negotiate, because it's not something I'm comfortable about, like, asking for.
Yeah.
But you really you have to.
And I don't
It
think
is hard.
people
Yeah.
don't understand the consequences of not pumping as well.
You want them to explode.
Yeah.
Is that what happened? Yeah. I'm pretty sure.
Like 2 nuclear bombs going off.
Exactly. That's what I understand.
so funny.
Something like, I think the explosion is more internal and it's more bacterial.
All right.
But yeah.
But I think, like, part of, like, hopefully more, like, women working during that time, or, like, trying to work and stuff like, I mean, in creative jobs, when the job comes up, it's kind of impossible to say no, which is what the hard thing is as well.
Yes.
But it
So
is
you
like,
can't tell them.
Like, you wouldn't want to disclose.
Then you're
So
like, oh,
good.
by the way,
Yeah.
I'm going to be 8 months pregnant.
there's so much sneaky shit you have to do.
Because how do you do it
Yeah.
otherwise? Because
Yeah.
of course
You're
they're
not
just
gonna
like,
get it.
oh, Adrian, gosh, she's having
Literally.
another baby. I can't.
I was talking to
But
someone.
like, you would never work otherwise.
No.
It's too difficult. But it's like,
But and it's also like, yeah, people just don't understand the body requirements of having a baby. They really think it just pops out and you're
Yeah.
fine. And it's like, no, it's like a full
Yeah.
workout every hour. But I can see that and that's especially in performing and creative industries. I'm for women and women who have children, I'm like, that's a fucking huge hurdle. And it's not their fault. It's everyone around them and it's the industry around them being weird about it.
Yeah.
every other industry
And not being
seems to be
flexible.
able to like absorb it and make it work.
They're just so strange. They're still like a very much
We
like
gotta
a
get better at it.
feels like a like virgin whore complex. What is it? Madonna whore complex.
Yeah, it kind of is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's weird. Anyway.
Yeah. Anyway, that's fun. That's fun.
To end on a high note. Yeah.
Tits explode.
Yeah. Tits exploding. Picture that, everyone. Jordan Barr, thanks for coming in.
Jordan.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Barr, we love your work.
I had a great time.
Yeah, thank you. Should we plug Miss Moses? Come to Miss Moses, the comedy room that Jordan and I run. It's in Brunswick.
Folks,
First
do
Wednesday
it.
of every month. But
We
also
get people
other
to tell a
things.
secret as well, which is fun.
We love a juicy little secret.
Yeah, you can listen to a podcast I do called Pop Gaze, which is just a pop culture podcast. It's fun.
Yeah.
Come do that.
Yeah,
Come do that.
your ability to just pluck any kind of obscure like reference in culture, like whether it's like Mormon wives or like it's
real
so
skill.
in depth. I don't understand how do you keep across it all? It's too much.
Speaking of like people who have kids, when people are like, how do you balance it? People ask me that about like
How do you stay across
television
it?
and pop culture.
You're
How
in
do you
like
find
so
the time
many
to absorb so much?
so many Reddit forums. you're reading. And like,
those are my kids. No, I just don't sleep. It's cool.
Doing it all.
And make sure, if you haven't already, go see Candy. You
yes,
have
go
to.
see Candy. Yes.
One of the great Australian films.
Yeah.
Love it.
Watch that bank teller scene. See Adrienne with that little like baby face.
Little baby Adrienne.
Like just like these big like love eyes at Heath.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have been able to handle it.
Oh no.
Gorgeous.
Just a little moment. R.I.P.
Let's all take a moment.
One of the greats.
A king.
Yeah.
Well,
that's it.
We did another episode of Is this a job? We're still working it out. Thanks for listening.
We think it might be a job. We'll get back to you.
Yeah, I don't know.
Thank you for listening. If you liked us, please tell a friend or two. Apparently that's how these things work. We want to acknowledge the incredible stories, culture, resilience and creativity of the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities, in particular the beautiful lands of the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung people of the Kulin Nations, where this podcast is recorded. Thank you also to Chris Pickering for the music and Vincent Pickering for the logo and animations. And yes, they are our brothers. We're everywhere.